Hello, you all. Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. I'm going to now start all my videos with this because I need to ask people to subscribe because I'm realizing that when I do, they actually do it. Even though whenever I watch YouTube videos and people ask me to subscribe, it kind of bothers me because I'm like, okay, can you just get to it? Oh, anyways, if you haven't noticed yet, I did some things to my hair, which are, I don't know how I feel about it yet. Have you ever done this where you're finally alone and you can't just relax, you like have to do something to yourself or change your look? So I was feeling this past weekend when my parents had my son for the night, and instead of just like relaxing, I put a ton of bleach, like at home bleach, all over in my hair. And yeah, I mean, I not everywhere. I mean, you can still see in the back some of my like dark natural auburn hair, but then I just went a little crazy and it's really light. Let me know, do you like this or not? Is this too brassy? Like I just keep being like, I'm like just right on the edge. I'm not sure if I love it or not. Okay. Other thing is, if you want early access to these videos, please consider becoming a member. Read your suggestions. Lots of you have asked for this song. My friend, I called her up and I said, like, look, is this gonna make me break down? And she said, possibly, but she said it might be really therapeutic for me and that I will relate to it deeply in a sense about it wouldn't bring up just like necessarily just sadness. It'll bring up a different emotion. So I said anger, and she's like, kind of. So that intrigued me. So I want to do it right now. So without further ado, how did it end?
We hereby conduct this post-mortem.
Sorry, I have to stop already. We hereby conduct this post-mortem. Taylor. Many of you know, and for those that don't know, I have on my wrist My Tears Ricochet. That is my favorite song. I mean, I love a lot of songs, but it definitely, when I got this tattoo, my first tattoo ever, I really wanted it to symbolize my new life after the death of who I was with that died along with my marriage. You listen to My Tears Ricochet, it's like we gather here, we line up weeping in a sunlit room. And so she's basically describing a scene where she's at a funeral or a wake. And so this is kind of the same thing by saying we hereby conduct this postmortem. But it's not a eulogy. A postmortem is an examination of somebody's body. It's really just trying to understand the cause of death. How did it end? She's saying we hereby, it makes you think of a eulogy. Yeah, she's saying conduct the postmortem. So she's so smart. I'm gonna love this. I can feel it already. How did she discover the cause of death? Does she know the cause of death? So good. Okay.
He was a hothouse flower to my outdoorsman. Our maladies were such we could not cure them. And so a touch that was my birthright became foreign.
Ooh, okay. She is essentially saying that they were not compatible. Like a hothouse flower compared to my outdoorsman. A hothouse flower is a flower that essentially needs to be put in a greenhouse to stay alive because it needs heat. And typically a lot of plants that come from exotic places are put into a greenhouse to grow because they're in a colder region than what they are native to. So it's interesting. I don't know. I'm not going to go down trying to figure out who that person is who's the hothouse flower to my outdoorsman. But a hothouse flower is very particular and has to be grown, you know, in that warm greenhouse. She's someone who prefers to be outside, fresh air, roaming outside in nature, like doesn't have to be confined into small spaces. So saying our maladies were such we could not cure them, she's talking about like disease, which is interesting because she's talking about post-mortem and examination of the body to find out the cause of death. So she's saying that whatever the disease that was there, they themselves couldn't cure them. So a touch that was my birthright became foreign, so like a green thumb or like the magic touch, like the touch that the person enjoys, that touch that is her birthright, something that was hers to have, now feels foreign. Oh gosh. Yeah, I know that feeling. Yeah, when my divorce was happening, prior to it, even, you start to see the stark issues in the issues came creeping up, and something that I thought, was mine, God given to me for forever, when his touch became foreign to me, it's really hard to reconcile and to make sense of it. So that's what I'm feeling so far. Wow, this is gonna be really good. I can feel it. Let's keep going.
Come one, come all, it's happening again. The empathetic hunger descends. We'll tell no one except all of our friends. We must know. How did it end?
Ooh, I'm not liking this. It's not that I don't like the song. I'm saying I'm not liking what she's describing. There's this like tinge of like grossness to it, meaning come one, come all, it's happening again. Come one, come all. It sounds like she's talking about people, not just the friends that she wants to confide it in. I gotta think about this for a second, because there's something about, what did she say? Empathetic, what was it? Empathetic hunger descends. Empathetic hunger descends. Tell no one except all our friends. Well, you tell one person, you basically told 3 or 4 in my book, or more, because of the game of telephone. We're trying to discover maybe how it ended. Maybe she's wondering, like, she's talking to all the people who want to know how it ended. Okay, I gotta keep going.
We were blind to unforeseen circumstances. We learned the right steps to different dances, and fell victim to interlopers' glances. Lost the game of chance. What are the chances?
Blind to unforeseen circumstances. I mean, for me, our problem started in 2020. So right when the pandemic hit, caused a lot of issues. If you've read my book, which, you know what, everybody's saying just be shameless with the plugging, who cares? Here it is. Hey Addiction, Thanks for Nothing, a brutally honest guide to loving an addict without losing your mind. I wrote this as my marriage was crumbling in 2020, and this is a self-help memoir, so it talks a lot about what I went through. And one of the key pieces of it all dissolving, I've talked about drugs and alcohol, but that wasn't, like, I don't know if it all would have happened if the pandemic didn't happen. So when you say we were blind to unforeseen circumstances, yeah, there was no way that we knew when we got married that we got married in 2020. But we had a 2-year-old. I did everything kind of backwards. And anyways, I think that unforeseen circumstances, we didn't anticipate him being out of work and my work taking off because a lot of people were in distress. We also didn't plan on our son being diagnosed with autism, and didn't anticipate, the use of alcohol to be helping with the anxiety, I guess it will say, on his end. How quickly it really took him down, but it was like a mixture of a lot of things. So for Taylor or anybody else who's listening to the song, it can be any event that you didn't see that kind of was the catalyst for the ending of your relationship. When she's saying we fell victim to interlopers' glances, an interloper is a person who is really getting into business that's like not their business. Was really hard whenever people started to notice that things were wrong. I thought I was doing a very good job of keeping things hidden and private. But, you know, when people start to notice things, ask questions, it can cause like a ripple effect of issues. I don't know if you all want this background information, but that's where I'm coming from with it.
Soon they'll go home to their husbands, smug cause they know they can trust him, then feverishly calling their cousins. Guess who we ran into at the shops, walking in circles like she was lost. Didn't you hear? They called it all off. One gasp, and then how did it end?
Sad and angry. Those aren't the feelings that I'm really feeling right now. I think what I'm feeling more so right now is like, I don't feel it in the present tense, but back then, the shame and embarrassment of it. I think I filed for divorce, but on my personal Instagram, not Mammoth Mare, because Mammoth Mare, I had filed for divorce before I had started this YouTube channel. Yeah. I mean, I was working on it when things fell apart. Definitely delayed it because my ex, when I was working on it, and why I postponed doing this for such a long time. I remember when he came in and saw my ring light, he said,
"Oh, are you trying to be some kind of influencer?"
And I felt really stupid. But I give 0 Fs, and I really love it, and I'm very grateful for this support system. But when it all had gone down, I saw a poem that really touched me, and I reposted it on my personal Instagram. And I remember my best friend calling me and being like, "Oh my gosh, so-and-so just called me and asked like if you were okay or if you were going through a divorce." And I was like, how would she know? And she goes, "Well, she said that you posted something on your Instagram that gave her the feeling that you were going through something and that she had to know." And my friend was like, this is who she is. And I didn't have a close relationship with her. I was friends with her on Instagram because she went to college with my best friend. And so I knew her through my friend because they were friends, but they weren't like super, super close anymore, but they were really good friends at that period of time, but we weren't super close. She's one of those people that has to know the tea, has to know the gossip, wants to know what's going on. And I was really pissed, to be quite honest. I felt nauseous, I remember, and sick. I was like, this is happening to me. Like, this is horrible. This isn't for you to talk to your husband with, or these people that I don't even know, to know details about my life. It felt really invasive and awful and like really shitty and very gross to me for her to be calling up my best friend knowing that she would get the tea. But my friend thankfully handled it very well and was just like, it's, you know, it's something that I don't think she would want people that aren't super close with to be talking about. And then it was almost like she got defensive, I think, that my friend kind of, you know, put up a wall, thankfully, because she's very protective of me and I love her so much. I also know that that person is in a good marriage, and I felt embarrassed that I was with somebody who ended up, you know, cheating on me, and I had no idea. She probably will be spared. Her husband, I think, probably treats her very well. He's a very wonderful person. Experience has definitely made me very careful about how I take in other people's news. I understand the curiosity there, like I really do. But it was like, you're gonna call up my best friend just from an Instagram post? Like, honestly, get a life. Like, I don't even remember the last time I looked at her post or her Instagram story. Anyways, that's besides the point. Obviously, it really bothers me. Taylor is really getting that picture of like the gasping and like, how did it end? And also when she says that empathetic hunger, I remember her being like, "Oh my God, we'll send her my best. You don't have to tell me all the details, but oh my God, you can send her my best." And it's just like, just wanting to come in and be part of my life when I'm like,
I don't even know you. Like,
you don't know me outside of us like giving each other niceties at a wedding, you know, but you're wanting to know all about my life. Okay, this is bringing up a lot.
How did it end? Say it once again with feeling, how the death rattle breathing silenced as the soul was leaving, the deflation of our dreaming, leaving me bereft and reeling, my beloved ghost and me, sitting in a tree, D-Y-I-N-G. It's happening again.
Okay. So, I gotta go back. There's so much there. It's making me emotional.
Say it once again with feeling, how the death rattled breathing silenced as the soul was leaving, the deflation of our dreaming.
God, it makes me want to cry. Ah. It's the imagery there. Like two different things I have in my mind. My friend recently lost her grandmother, and she was describing how slow the breaths became before she took her last breath. The death rattle breathing, it's like that certain kind of like still trying to get the air. And my friend talking about like once she had taken her last breath and she just watched her grandmother die, she was back out in her car later, and that's when she felt her grandmother so strongly. She's like, yeah, I knew right after she took her last breath that she was no longer there. But in the context of the death of a relationship or that person that you were, my tears ricochet, when it's dying, that moment is so traumatic. When she's saying, say it once again with feeling, it's like those people that want you to tell the story again. They want to know the details, every little part of it. Sometimes before I would go and meet up with people that didn't know the full story, but knew that it was ending, I would say that morning, I would text them and say like, hey, I know you want to talk about this. I can't talk about this today, okay? And there were some people that respected that, and there were other people that like somehow still came back around and having to bring it back again. And some people were like, oh, you're so strong, like you're not even getting upset retelling it. And I'm like, if I let myself feel the words that are coming out of my mouth, I don't know if I can survive, because that pain is like a death. It's exactly what she's saying. So she's describing these people who want her to tell her the story again with all the feeling in the world about that, like the hardest part, you know, when the death happens. Silence as the soul was leaving, the deflation of our dreaming, the life that you thought it would be, like deflating and going away.
Left and reeling, my beloved ghost and me, sitting in a tree, D-Y-I-N-G.
Wow. D-Y-I-N-G. I don't know if she means this, but it makes me think of the little kids that go, sitting in a tree, K-I-S-S-I-N-G. First there was love, then came marriage, then comes something, baby carriage. So when she's saying D-Y-I-N-G, I think that she's referencing that maybe, but that's what it makes me think of. But it makes it even harder because it's the dream of the life, like the ideal of like what we have been sold by society, which is not true, to aspire to. It's hard whenever like you've acquired that and then it's dying. And she's saying breathed. I haven't heard that word in a long time, breathed and reeling. Breathed is like stolen, being robbed of something that's yours. like your future being robbed, stolen from you, and it leaves you reeling. She's just left dying in a tree, like her and her beloved ghost, who she once was. How is Taylor this good? It's crazy. Anyone who doesn't recognize the poet that she is just out of their mind.
It's happening again. How did it end? I can't pretend like I understand. How did it end? Come one, come all. It's happening again. The empathetic hunger descends. Will tell no one except all of our friends, but I still don't know. How did it end?
I feel so much right now. I have a million thoughts and feelings and scenarios going through my mind. It's like, it's really hard when you can't give someone a distinct reason why how it ended, but everybody wants to know. So about her being like lost, walking around like lost in the store, and did you hear they called it off? And I just relate to it because I think I was in such a, for a long time, a state of disassociation, and also still in like the shock, like functioning shock response time. Does this make any sense? I remember going to Amy Schumer's concert, my friend, shortly after. Everything she would talk about with her marriage and making jokes about it, it was just like, I couldn't help but cry. So everybody's laughing and I was just crying. And I think my friends, it was kind of like, it was too soon for me to go, but at some point you have to go out into the world. But it was just the disassociation and the disbelief that that is even what your life is now, because you get so comfortable in like what your life is that you can't even imagine it changing. And come one, come all, it's like, yeah, you have to tell everybody. So often I would tell my parents, or I would tell my sister, or my niece and nephew, or friends of mine, that when people were going to see me again for the first time, I'm like, I can't retell the story. So just tell them. I don't care anymore. If they know all of the juicy details, I don't care. Tell them whatever you need to tell them. Because like, I can't physically tell people it anymore. Because like, I still don't even understand how I'm here right now. This is grief. This is the grieving process. So when I talk about that time that it was happening to me, where I was at the grieving stages, was just completely just like shock, like utter shock. And I think that that's what she's talking about. And it also makes me think about how kind of messed up it is about the timing of funerals. Like that you're supposed to do a speech and get up there and talk about the death of someone like days after they've died, when you really aren't even probably making sense of any of it if you didn't have time to prepare. And that's what it feels like whenever a relationship that is very special to you ends. And that's any relationship. I mean, that can be like an animal dying, that can be a grandparent, that can be someone you worked with. Like it's not just romantic relationships, but it can just be just so hard to make sense of. And then it's even more hard when you have to answer to everyone else and when everybody else knows. I think that that's why sometimes it's easier to just not tell, because telling is really difficult. Okay, that was a lot. This is a very complex song. Wow. All right, I'm gonna go take a breather. I'm gonna go take a little walk outside, get centered again, because the place that I am in right now is really good. But that's what's fascinating about Taylor, is she can like literally pull you out of the present moment and put you directly back into a time in your life. And it feels as if that's what you're going through right at the moment. That just means she's a really great artist. Okay, hope you enjoyed this.